Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bernita James from the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Thank you so much for joining us for another presentation of the monthly Energy is Everywhere webinar. For those who are joining us for the first time, this webinar takes place on the third Thursday of every month at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And this webinar series is an activity of the SEED initiative. SEED stands for STEM Energy and Economic Development, and it is a pilot program supported by HUD, Department of Energy, as well as the Department of Education. The goal of SEED is to inspire public housing residents to pursue educational and career opportunities in STEM and energy professions, and we rely on public housing agencies to help us with this. This and past webinar presentations can be found online at Department of Energy's Energy is Everywhere webinar series website. You can Google this and you'll find this presentation as well as past presentations, and including a link to a YouTube playlist where you can find past recordings. And this webinar will be available by next week. Each month we try to bring a new resource that can be used for the benefit of our resources, and this month our presenters are from HIPPY USA. Our presenters include Stacy Crum Riley. She is the Executive Director for HIPPY USA, and she has over 15 years in nonprofit leadership, specifically working with workforce initiatives and family strengthening programs. As a licensed attorney, she has advocated for men and women coming out of prison and for families attempting reunification and for reinstating parental rights. Her goal is to grow HIPPY sites across the country and to help parents and children reach their full potential through HIPPY and its partner organizations. We'll also be hearing from Shantae Barrow. She serves as the Special Project Coordinator for the North Little Rock Housing Authority. She has worked for over 25 years in nonprofit and government sectors with an emphasis on communications, program development, and management and fundraising. She's responsible for leading PHA resident empowerment and second-generation outcomes initiatives in the state of Arkansas. And last but not least, we're going to also hear from Gerald Gallegos. He is the HIPPY Program Coordinator at the Adams County Housing Authority in Colorado. He earned his bachelor's degree from Adams State College in Alamos, Colorado. He's worked in the social work field for over 18 years, and he has been a director, coordinator, parent educator, home visitor, and family development worker in home visitation programs for 9 years. And we're also hoping to hear from a former HIPPY participant named Leroy Butler. So we are excited to present this resource, and we anticipate that this will be a great webinar. So,
hello.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Is this Leroy?
Yes, this is Leroy Butler speaking.
Thank you so much for joining us. We're just about to get started. Stacy, are you going to open?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Bernita. Well, hello, everyone, and I'm so excited about having the opportunity to talk with you about HIPPY and HUD. Our public housing authorities are partnering to change. The first thing I wanted to just give you a little bit of background about what HIPPY is, and we know it's a really cool name, but it actually stands for Home Instruction for Parents of Preschool Youngsters. And it's an evidence-based model in early childhood intervention, but the focus is actually on parents because we believe that parents are their children's first teacher, and all of our curriculum is designed around teaching parents how to be involved in getting their children ready for getting their children ready for school and beyond. The mission of HIPPY is just simply that, to partner with parents to prepare their children for school. Just a little background, because HIPPY has a very interesting background. It was developed in 1969 at Hebrew University in Israel, and the reason for it was that the families were experiencing economic disadvantage. They had limited proficiency in the dominant language, but they were also immigrant families. And the model was designed to really help them be able to help themselves. And you'll learn a little bit more about the peer-to-peer model that we are so well known for. But HIPPY was brought to the U.S. in 1984, and then it came to Arkansas by then First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton, and we now have expanded to over 22 states in the District of Columbia. For those reasons, I think is why HIPPY USA's national office is located here in Arkansas, and came to Arkansas in 2007 on the campus of Children's Hospital. If I can, just maybe briefly share with you a little bit about where we are. We have some states on the West Coast. We have a lot of states from Colorado, which you'll hear from Gerald later today, New Mexico, Texas, Arkansas. One of our largest states is Florida, and then we have states that are in the northern Midwest, and then some on the East Coast, including Virginia, North Carolina, and New York. One of the things that really makes HIPPY unique is that our programs and our partnerships, while our programs are great partnerships with other programs that have intervention for families. And so when we talk about funding for HIPPY programs, they come from a variety of sources. And primarily our sources will be from state governments. So states like Florida, Alabama, and Arkansas actually have programs that fund HIPPY for different parts of their states. School districts also make up, with Title I, about 50% of our programs. But then we also have funding that comes from federal grants and other federal programs, foundations, nonprofits, and I must say we are probably creative in our partnerships, and that allows us to get funding from many different sources. So the model, probably the simplest way to describe it is it has like a four-prong approach. The school readiness curriculum, our curriculum is designed so that when our HIPPY kids arrive at school, they will be ready and in a lot of cases advanced in what they need to know when they enter as kindergartners. The role play as a method of instruction is critical because our program uses a peer-to-peer model. So it's not just some stranger that's coming into the home and working with parents and teaching them how to teach their kids. It's actually someone coming from their community. It's someone who knows the community, may already know a lot of the families, has a rapport or is able to build a rapport very quickly. And there's a lot of trust that comes from that in the peer-to-peer model. And those folks really begin to use the scripted methods that we teach them to make sure that they are going through the role play and that parents know how to work through the curriculum with their children. And we do all of this through a home visiting delivery method. So the families aren't having to necessarily go and meet anyone anywhere. That home visitor is coming to where they are and working with them in their home. So just a little bit about our school readiness curriculum. We have been traditionally serving children ages 3 to 5. We are in the home and working with those families weekly. Our programs are at least 30 weeks with ages 3, 4, and 5. And we ask that parents would spend 15 to 20 minutes a day working through the packet of materials that our home visitors will leave for them. And because this is an energy is everywhere focus, I do want to share that one of our core areas is science. And so I think this is, again, a really good fit for us with housing and looking at STEM, and the seed focus that you all have is that we're trying to start very early with our young kids and getting them introduced to science and math. So just a snapshot of our families. 33% of them are African American, 31% Latino, 30% Caucasian, and then 5% multiracial and Pacific Islander. One of the areas that we would like to focus on is working more with tribal communities, and so I'm hoping in my time here to see those percentages increase. 60% of our families will have a high school diploma or less. A quarter of them will have some college, and roughly 15% of them will have college degrees, but most of them are living within 200% of the poverty level. So what do our parent and family outcomes look like? Well, they're pretty good. We know for a fact that through HIPPY, our literacy in the home improves. We empower parents that they become more involved in their children's experiences, educational experiences in the home, but they also are becoming more aware of child development concepts. We're actually seeing parents become more comfortable and more well-known about, or have more power in their child development and understanding how to have good relationships with their children. We know that parents are reporting spending more time reading to their kids, which often means less TV or screen time, but we also know that the communication in the home is increasing, so the word gap is lessening. The more that parents are talking with their kids, the more the vocabulary is increasing for their kids, and parents are also beginning to learn educational terminology, which empowers them to be more engaged with their kids and with the school system once their kids enter school. They learn about corrective techniques and positive or appropriate praise. And long term, these parents stay engaged with their kids throughout the educational experience. And the teachers are reporting that there's more participation from HIPPY parents in conferences and other school events as opposed to non-HIPPY parents. So before I introduce Leroy, I want to just talk a little bit about the child outcomes, and then I'll let you hear from a HIPPY grad, which of course will say more about who we are and what we do than anything I could ever share with you on paper. But we know that the attitudes and the values for our children are enhanced. We have very confident HIPPY kids. They are self-reliant and self-sufficient. And of course, they have school readiness skills. But statistically, they have performed higher than non-HIPPY kids in school in reading, math, and social studies. So with that, and thank you so much for the opportunity to share a little bit of the history of HIPPY, I'd like to introduce you to Leroy Butler, a HIPPY graduate.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Okay. I'm double checking my connection. I'm actually in the resource center right now that I'm actually building in my community at one of my old schools. So, and it's a huge concrete, but not just reception. So I want to make sure everyone can hear me. So that's okay. All right. So I can first start off by saying how much HIPPY means to me and my mom. It was a HIPPY program in the housing project that I was raised in, that we grew up in. And for starters, my story is not status quo, so to say. My mom had me when she was 14, and my dad was convicted of murder before I was born. So I met my biological dad when I was 16 or 17 years old. So statistically, the outcome of that situation is not very good. And thanks to HIPPY, and I give HIPPY, I'm literally quoted saying over and over daily, even when I do interviews in my neighborhood, in my own community, HIPPY saved my life. And the reason it did is because of how liberating education is. And HIPPY provided me with the tools and the foundation. When I went to M.E. Booker Elementary School in my community, I excelled. I was never behind the 8 ball. I excelled. And I ended up graduating from high school to top of my class, 3.9 GPA, 4.2 unweighted, and I went to one of the best colleges in the country, Lafayette College in Eastern Pennsylvania. And that's not possible. That's not possible at all without the HIPPY program. And HIPPY also provided an opportunity for my mom to actually be a home instructor. So they employed my mom, so it gave my mom a job. 15-year-old young lady with a kid. Now she's employed, and she's giving me the tools to break the generational cycle of poverty. And I firmly believe there's a lot of models on breaking poverty. There's only one thing that truly works, and that's what HIPPY's doing. The only way you can break generational poverty is through early literacy. It has to start before the child goes to elementary school, and HIPPY is the only program that I would endorse 100% just because of what it's done for me, but let alone what I see it does in my community as a whole. And that's one of the reasons I came back to my community. Actually, is because I realized, hey, HIPPY provided me with an opportunity. I excelled in school. I did great things. I graduated from Lafayette College, and I came back home, and I worked for the United Way, which is a nonprofit, and I developed programs in my neighborhood to break generational cycles of poverty. So, as of like today, I've mentioned earlier, we actually have a first in our inaugural graduation nurse assistant program built at the very same middle school that I attended, and I built the program. I brought it here. I created the funding. The class was 100% free to 12 participants. They all passed this test, and they're all certified nurse assistants. And that doesn't sound like much to a lot of people. We're going from $8 to $9 an hour as a resident aide to being certified to $13 to $14 an hour. What that does is provide some type of economic freedom so you can engage more in your child's literacy and your child's education. And I built this program at the middle school. So, and that's how important I feel education, literacy, and just doing the right thing. And really, my community can thank HIPPY for Leroy Butler. I mean, HIPPY and my mom, I say it all the time. HIPPY and my mom, HIPPY and my mother, because without HIPPY and my mother, I'm not the man I am today who can make the impact that I make in my neighborhood today and the things that I do. And it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful feeling, but it feels like we have a lot of work to do. I feel like we still have a lot of work to do because we have to, I wish the whole 33 states is not enough, 22 states of people is not enough. The whole United States of America have a HIPPY program. Everyone should have a HIPPY program, and we need to engage in it. That's my dream for HIPPY. I promise you, my dream for HIPPY is to expand it beyond measures, beyond measurables, because it is very, very productive. I'm still in contact to this day with my HIPPY, my home instructors, Miss Joan Williams, Miss Tracy. I'm still in contact with them, and I'm 27 years old. I was the first graduating class in Newtown. And so I know these names aren't familiar. Newtown is my neighborhood. It's my neighborhood I grew up in. The first class that came into the housing project, the Danny Poe Housing Project, it was directly in the housing project, a HIPPY program in the housing project brought by Dr. Moore. 1992, I was one of the first members, and I remember holding up the H during my graduation. And HIPPY works so full circle in my neighborhood. That's why I love it so much. When I came back from college, I was hired. My first job was given to me by the lady who brought HIPPY, who ran the HIPPY building in the housing project, Dr. Harriet Moore. So, and I'm still in contact with her daily, words of encouragement, and we're still pushing HIPPY. So, I could talk for this conversation. I could talk forever about HIPPY. So I'll cut it short there. But if you have any questions or anything, please let me know. And I've actually, this is how important HIPPY is in my neighborhood. I just left the Sarasota housing project. We took a group of kids from the project that I grew up in, shopping with police officers to ease tension at Target at 5 o'clock in the morning. From 5 to 8, we let them go into Target. About 100 kids. We had a police escort. The police officers took them. It was awesome. It's just powerful. It's just bridging gaps everywhere. So it was just one of those powerful things. And you see the power in partnership, man. So that's pretty much all I have to say, unless you have any questions.
Well, thank you so much, Leroy. Again, as I mentioned, his story is so much better than me telling you and rattling off stats about HIPPY. I may have been remiss in sharing. Can you tell what state you were in the HIPPY program in, Leroy, just for our audience?
Florida. I'm in Florida. I'm in Southwest Florida, Sarasota, Florida. Okay. Southwest Florida.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Just kind of take the opportunity. I know that you won't be able to stay on the call for the duration of time, but I don't know if there are any questions from anyone in the audience for Leroy before he has to exit the call.
There is a chat box. If anyone has any questions, you can type your questions there, and I can also unmute your phone and take any questions if you raise your hand electronically. Well, I'll continue, and if there are any questions that come in, we'll
we'll address those. But I just wanted to kind of close out my part of the presentation and talking about the different HIPPY partnerships. We work very closely, as I mentioned, with school districts and helping to transition children into the formal school setting. But also we partner with Head Start. It's a home-based option for us, and also with the daycares to provide extra services to families. And my niece was actually a part of the Head Start program and was got a chance to experience HIPPY. She is now getting ready to graduate from college. So we know firsthand that partnership works. We understand that we are part of a continuum of care through our home visiting models, because we work a lot with other programs that start with maternal child interventions and working with ages 0 to 3, and a lot of times HIPPY will partner with those other organizations so that there's no drop the home visiting that happens with the family. It just will move into the HIPPY program. Working with family agencies, and then again, we'll talk a little bit more about the workforce component with HIPPY, but the workforce partnerships and those employment advancement programs like TANF, AmeriCorps, WIOA, all of those things will fit very nicely in what we're doing to help home visitors enter the professional workforce. And then, of course, last but not least, why we're here today is working with housing authorities, because we understand that education and empowerment of families, and we know that because we have a home visiting model, it makes sense for us to go where people are living and helping them take over their community and also in the next steps that they have for their lives. So with that, I will turn over the presentation to Shantae Barreau, who is one of our local and here in Arkansas with the North Little Rock Housing Authority. Okay.
Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you so much, Leroy. We will talk soon. You were wonderful.
No problem.
Good afternoon. How's everyone doing? My name is Shantae Barreau, and I'm with the North Little Rock Housing Authority in Arkansas, and we are the oldest charter PHA in the state, and that happened around in 1941. Actually, we have 1,023 units of housing, not the 1013 that you see, and we also operate 29 subsidized housing units as well. We have 4 family sites and 4 senior disabled sites, and roughly serve 1,600 residents. We administer the Section 8 voucher program, and we have about 1,400 vouchers in use right now for both rental and home ownership. Our priorities are given to seniors and disabled when the wait list opens, and we also have about 180 VASH vouchers, which are for veterans. We operate a family self-sufficiency program, both for the public housing sector section as well as our Section 8 section as well. And we are, for those are familiar, we're taking part in HUD's Rental Assistance Demonstration Program. And for those of you on the call who do not know, HUD has allowed public housing authorities to partner with private developers to redevelop their entire their portfolio of housing. So that's what we are doing over the next 5 years or so. For the last year, I have been working to expand and build on our resident services. And so one of the, let me go back a little bit, and so what we've developed is a resident empowerment and second generation outcomes initiative that will target our 4 multifamily sites. And I've been studying and emerging 2 programmatic models. That's the one done by Ascend Network at the Aspen Institute's Ascend Network and the Urban Institute's Housing Opportunity and Service together. They're collaborative. What I'm doing is I'm targeting 418 residents at all of our 4 family sites, and the target age is 18 to 49. And within that model is 304 children who are 0 to 5 and are at HIPPY age. At all 4 of our family sites, we do have a Head Start program, and 2 of which do promote the HIPPY program. For HIPPY, one way we're going to use HIPPY is to, as a requirement from HUD, most y'all know there is the community service portion that for those who are not exempt, that they must do some type of community service. And so we are using the HIPPY program as a model and encouraging them to take part to fulfill that community service requirement. Back to our effort of our second gen and resident empowerment initiative, we have gathered together 10 agencies in this building. They're nonprofits, they're other NGOs, they're government organizations to help us expand what we wish to do with this project. Some of the things we have identified several areas that we're going to focus on, and we do believe in all areas that HIPPY can definitely make an impact through that family model. We're doing family-centered education, and some of the things that we definitely wish to tackle is the literacy portion, HIPPY. When I say family-centered, that means all individuals in that family and how they can benefit from this model that we've set up. We're also going to have an extensive workforce development initiative. Our governor here in Arkansas has a robust STEM initiative. I put STEAM because that's an art component as well. But we're also going to seek HUD's Job Plus initiative as well when that NOFA comes out. It's forecasted in February. Go to the next slide. We also have a family health and wellness initiative that that tackles some of the chronic conditions, mental health conditions along with that, and also smoking cessation is a big deal now because Secretary Castro came out and found that HUD properties or public housing will go smoke-free. We also tackle economic issues as well and creating upward mobility. In each one of these, we see a role for HIPPY as from the child perspective and engaging parents with their child in a number of these services. So that's our outcome on what we're looking to be over the next, looking to become over the next several years. Do you have any questions for me? Thank you.
No questions at this time.
Okay, well, Gerald, I think you are up.
Okay. All right, well, hello, everybody. My name is Gerald Gallegos, and I am currently a HIPPY program coordinator at the Adams County Housing Authority. We are a housing authority in Colorado that actually has implemented a HIPPY program. It's new. We're about month 4 into our HIPPY program, but it's working very well, and I want to just to share with everybody how, if you are interested, like Shantae is talking about, getting a HIPPY program started with their housing authority, how it came to the Adams County Housing Authority. So first, it really is a matter of community partnerships, and I think Stacy spoke a little bit about that earlier, how important it is to have these community partnerships and how important early childhood education is as a focus with housing authorities. So our deputy director actually sits on the Early Childhood Partnership of Adams County, and because he's part of that board, when the HIPPY program that already existed in Adams County was closing because it was part of the Head Start program, and they were looking for a community partner to actually take on the HIPPY program, they approached him because they knew how important early childhood education was as a focus for our housing authority. So we were able to work with HIPPY USA and became a new HIPPY site in the state of Colorado just about 4 months ago. So we also partnered with Head Start, who actually had the HIPPY program before, and so because it was alive and well in Adams County, we were able just to take that over. We work really close with other home visitation programs in our community, which again is real important if you're looking at starting a HIPPY program, because you really are going to be working with this continuum of care, because HIPPY works with 3-, 4-, and 5-year-old preschool-aged children families. So those 0 to 3 programs are real important to kind of be part of your conversation. we were also able to fund our HIPPY program using the McVie funds, which are the Maternal Infant Early Childhood Home Visitation federal money that's out there for home visitation programs. And another shout out to HIPPY, it's one of the 9 recognized evidence-based programs that McVie actually funds. So that's kudos to the HIPPY program, just to show that HIPPY does work and that we are recognized at the federal level for funding. And Adams County is a recognized county for funding for McVie, so that's how we were able to fund the majority of our program. So that's just a real brief how the HIPPY program came to Adams County. Why did we want to have a HIPPY program at the Adams County Housing Authority? It's like Shantae spoke about. We want to really work to empower and engage and educate our families, not only the families that are living in our properties, but just also the families that are in our community. We partnered with our nonprofit here at the Housing Authority, which is called LIFE, stands for the Low Income Family Engagement Program. So this really ties in really well with that mission. HIPPY ties in with the mission of our dual generation solution, focused on halting the cycle of generational poverty. And you really, listen to what Leroy had to say, and that really is what we're trying to do, is we're trying to create more success stories like Leroy with reducing the generational poverty, that whole cycle of generational poverty. And we also believe that, early literacy and early education is really the key out of that cycle. So we're really, really working with our target population of the families that live in our county and our properties to really see if we can kind of start early with the parents who have 3- and 4-year-olds and working with them. So HIPPY does work, right? So I put my little hashtag because that's kind of fun. But I want to share some success stories because you can hear about the outcomes that Stacy was talking about. And I have been a program coordinator for 5 years. I come from another HIPPY site. I just moved to Denver recently to help start this new HIPPY program. But because I've been on the ground doing this, I was also a home visitor for 2 years in the HIPPY program, so I got to really see it by working in the homes with families. But I just wanted to share a couple of stories that kind of really bring home the whole workforce development piece of HIPPY and also how parents really benefit from being part of the HIPPY program. I want to first talk a little bit about Nicole. Nicole was a mom who had a young child, and I actually worked as her home visitor. I went to her home and I visited with her and worked with her and her son, and she was amazing. She was a stay-at-home mom, was just looking for something to do with her son. So we actually started having weekly visits, and it went really well. This was a year before we started our HIPPY program in Pueblo, Colorado. And so when the HIPPY program did come to our city, I was hired on as the HIPPY coordinator, and I started looking for some parents that I was working with that could really be leaders, because HIPPY really does work off of a peer mentor. And so because we were going to be serving the community that she lived in, I thought, she would be perfect as a home visitor. So I approached her, she applied, and I hired her. Nicole worked for me as a home visitor in the HIPPY program for 2 years, did an amazing job, and did so well that the agency that was hosting our HIPPY site wanted to hire her on full-time, so she was able to get a job. She worked as an assistant coordinator for the Nurture and Parenting program, working with parents because she was such a good role model for the families that she was working with as a HIPPY home visitor. And now that I left that program, she is now the new HIPPY program coordinator for that site in Pueblo. So that just goes to show how you can start from a mom working at home, stay-at-home mom wanting to be part of the HIPPY program. She used the HIPPY program as a tool to go back to school. She was an AmeriCorps service member, earned her money to go back to college, earned her degree, and now she is a HIPPY coordinator. So that's just one example of how you can start as, like I said, a stay-at-home mom, wanting to better your life, be a role model for you and your child, and the sky's the limit. Another success story is a dad that was in our program. He was Spanish-speaking only, and just so you know, HIPPY is also offered in English and in Spanish. And so mom wanted the visits to be in English because she was, wanting to teach her young son English. So the visits were being done in English, and Dad slowly started making his way into the visits and would sit as part of the visit as the home visitor was role-playing the curriculum with Mom. And by the end of the 30 weeks, Dad, who only spoke Spanish, was now speaking English. So he learned English by sitting in on the home visits. So that just goes to show what a powerful tool this is for early literacy and how children are learning so much that you could also teach a Spanish-speaking father English just by sitting in through listening as part of the visits. So I love to tell that story. Kindergarten readiness is really the goal of the HIPPY program, and I have, spoke with so many kindergarten teachers who can spot a HIPPY kid on day one because of things like Leroy talked about, that self-confidence that a child has walking into school on the first day because they're not behind. They're actually ahead of the game. And that confidence with their social emotional skills, with their education level, really does shine. And kindergarten teachers really speak, like Leroy was saying, that every child should go through HIPPY because it really does prepare them for that first day of kindergarten. And the biggest thing that I think I can talk about as a success story of HIPPY is that parents really do become advocates for their children. Because we work with the parent and not the child with this home visitation model, parents really do become empowered as their child's advocates. We really are trying to get parents to get into the classrooms, going to parent-teacher conferences, encourage extracurricular activities, and it really is amazing how when a parent has a question or a school has a question about a child and their learning, that the parent, a HIPPY parent, will actually go in and speak to the principal, to the counselors, to the school staff as an advocate and really stand up for themselves. And I saw this year after year with parents who thought, I'm a stay-at-home mom, I barely finished high school myself, or maybe I was able to get my GED and I have no college education, but you know what? I am going to go into this school that can be a little intimidating for some parents, and I'm going to stand up for my child as an advocate. And that is one of the most amazing things to see because we're building self-confidence for the parents that we work with. So those are just a few of the stories that I wanted to share just to kind of let you know that HIPPY does work and from a person who sees it and has worked in it for several years. And the workforce piece that I really want to speak to today about HIPPY and how it can work in communities and with the Housing Authority is that the home visitors do not need to have a degree. They don't have to have that early childhood education or a bachelor's degree or have worked in the field for several years. We're looking for parents who live in the communities that are going to be served, who want to help families and are leaders and are wanting to get some training and education. So in Colorado, all of our HIPPY sites, the home visitors are AmeriCorps service members. So this has been a great partnership with AmeriCorps. So we hire the home visitors as AmeriCorps service members. They sign a 900-hour member service agreement, which means over 9 months they're going to put in 900 hours of service. They do earn a living allowance. But the biggest part about it is that they get an educational award at the end of their 900 hours, and it's almost $3,000 that they get to use for school, to go to college. And so this is that dual generation approach that our home visitors are showing other parents that, I was in your shoes, I'm actually the same as you, I'm your neighbor, I live right next door, I also have a 3 or 4-year-old, and look what I'm doing and look what you can do. And so I've seen home visitors over the years go back to school, get their degree, and which is great. As AmeriCorps, they can only serve for 4 years. So what happens is then the current home visitors or current HIPPY families are actually the next generation of home visitors. So it's one of those programs that builds from itself. We are actually hiring from the families that we're serving, and they get to have this wonderful part-time job serving other families, and it actually just grows on itself, which is pretty exciting to see how that works. And if you go to any HIPPY site across the United States, you're going to know that the majority of the home visitors were also HIPPY parents at one point, and they're role modeling that if I can do it, you can do it, and I think that kind of works really well. Any questions and feel like I've just been going on and on.
It's because you're good, Gerald. Thank you. Do we have any questions from the audience?
Yes. One question. Are background checks done on the parents that are enlisted as home visitors?
Yes, there is an extensive background check for all of them. We run the fingerprints of the FBI, and the thing is, so yes, there is a background check. We go through the sex offender websites. We do a very extensive before we even offer them a position or even bring them in for an interview. So yes, there is an extensive background check that is done, and also AmeriCorps has a pretty stringent background check also. And just because they don't have this education to do this, some of you are probably wondering, well, how are they then trained to go and do this job? So the HIPPY model has also created role play in team meetings. So every week, once a week, the coordinator meets with their entire staff of home visitors. I will lead role play, and we will go over every activity, talk about all of the elements that are part of the role play. We practice with each other in the team meeting, and we really kind of get really comfortable with it. Every home visitor also has to have a practice child or their own HIPPY child that they do the packets with also. So they're really practicing hands-on before they start going into the homes and working with families.
Gerald, this is Stacy. Would you just talk a little bit about the group meetings? I don't know if you had a chance, but I think that's another wonderful component that would be of interest to the housing team here, because it's helping with community development and engagement. Could you just talk a little bit about some group meetings that you've seen and a part of?
Yes. Definitely. So another thing that I want to talk about as a home visitation program, which I think is great, is that a lot of families have that struggle with transportation and getting to different places. So the great part about HIPPY is that we go to the families; they don't have to come to us. But one of the great things too about having a HIPPY program in a housing authority is that there's a lot of community rooms or spaces available for families to come together. So one of the goals of HIPPY too is to reduce social isolation of families, and so we like to bring families together once a month for a group meeting. We do a survey at the beginning of the year on some things that families would like to learn more about. So they do this survey, and we kind of plan our group meetings around some education that they would like. Some of the suggestions that we get every year are things like, how to work with my child, how to budget, how to do healthy snacks on a budget, parenting skills, love and logic, all those things. So we bring families together, and so again, they're bringing neighbors and everybody together for a night at, we serve dinner or lunch depending on the time of the day. We have presenters come in. The kids get to do some really cool enrichment activities with their parents, and this is also, again, it's teaching children that social emotional piece of how to interact with other children their age. So again, when they go into the classroom, they've actually interacted with other children their own age, and parents can actually start building a network of support with each other because they're all going through the same thing. So it's really nice that you talked about, that community engagement piece.
Yeah. One of the things, and just to spin off of the question that was asked, in doing the background checks, we understand that there may be some parents that would not necessarily be able to be home visitors based on whatever their background issues are. But the partnerships that we have in those group meetings are also wonderful ways for other community partners to come in and talk to parents about different resources in the community. For some, it may be the path to reentry. It may be finding ways for them to get access to other training that that may be of interest to them for whatever career field they are pursuing. So thank you so much for talking about those group meetings, because I think that is another way in which parents are introduced to other resources in their community and other opportunities that may be a benefit to them as well. Did we have any other questions?
Yes. How do you gain parents' trust in order to work in their homes?
So I think the way that this works best is because of our peer-mentor relationship. A lot of families are real hesitant about somebody coming into their home because there's, this fear that somebody coming into my home, they're here to judge me, they're here to make me feel less than, or that, something like that could happen. The home visitors going into the home and working with families are their neighbors, are people who can relate to them through culture. Like I said, they're friends, they live across the street, and so it's a lot easier to build a rapport with the family when the home visitor can relate to that family that they're working with. And that really is one of the most amazing parts about the HIPPY program, is that when you go into these homes, because I get to do home visit observations and I get to see my home visitors in action with these families, the relationship that they build with them is pretty amazing. Of course, the first couple visits, it's a little bit strange and awkward, but when you think about it, I don't know how many of you have the same person come to your house once a week for an hour for 30 weeks. That is quite the commitment. And so the relationship that the home visitor and the parent build with each other, it really is an amazing bond. And that's why I think a lot of the parents see how much fun they've had doing this program, that when positions become available, they're like, you know what, I saw my home visitor do it, I can do that too. And it really builds their confidence.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think what you've presented so far has been incredibly interesting. I can see there's a lot of interest and a lot of value that's obvious in terms of preparing kids for schooling in the present, and also preparing them for education in the future, and also allowing parents to develop job skills. So I'm seeing a lot of questions about funding. And I know you talked a little bit about it earlier, but I'm guessing what people really want to know is, how do I get HIPPY at my housing authority? So would you please just go over that one more time?
Gerald, I'll let you talk about it a little bit from your perspective, but I just will chime in here and say, because there are so many different funding opportunities, one of the ways would be to reach out and have that initial connection or communication with the housing authority. But if you are in a community where there is not currently a HIPPY program, you can always start at the national office and contacting us, and we will help facilitate some of those initial conversations. It is our job to find out more about communities to help grow the HIPPY program anyway. So in doing so, we can somewhat be a catalyst for helping you get in the right places, to meet and talk to the right folks to get and understand funding for your residents. But Gerald, did you want to maybe share a little bit about the funding for you all and how that?
Sure. I spoke a little bit before about the McV funds, and those are available. But again, those are just those are targeted counties that can get that money. So I would definitely encourage you to do a little bit of research on that to see if your community offers that. Another great place to start is with your early childhood council or other programs in your community that are currently funding other home visitation programs. There are so many out there that are working with families, and there are so many community partners that believe that early childhood education really is the key and where they want to invest their money. So I have worked, like I said, for about 5 years now as a coordinator. I've seen funding come into our program through different routes. We've had federal money, we've had some state money through different foundations. You also can get donations. There are lots of ways to fund your programs, but if you're really looking at a brand new way, HIPPY USA really is a good place to start, because they have a lot of tools on their website to kind of how to approach funders even about giving you the money that you need to fund the program. And there's evidence. This is an evidence-based program that there's research behind it, makes it real easy to talk to funders and get funding for your program.
And if there's already childhood intervention or programs going on, it can be requested that they would be for HIPPY. And so the funding is already there and is already in place. Or it could be a request that there are more slots that are opened up for HIPPY in a particular community. So again, I just want to stress to utilize this national office to help, be a bridge in making those connections for you and your organization.
And so, Stacy, would it be the best thing for them to reach out to you directly? We have your contact information up, your number, and
Yes, that would be great, because we like to know where there's growing interest, but we also want to make sure that we have partners at the table that can help us kind of strategize what's the best resource for our community. And a lot of times what we may need to do is, for example, work with someone like Gerald, who's already done it, and so we know the right steps, and we can save people time. So yes, reaching out to me and the national office would be a great first step.
great, thank you. There's one more question. Is there established partnering with foster agencies?
You know, it's a really good question, and I will simply say this: because every state is designed differently, I can at this point only really talk about it in relationship to the state of Arkansas, and Gerald might have some other comments for Colorado. But our foster care program is run out of the same agency, the Department of Human Services, and so we're able to bridge very, very closely with them to provide those resources, but usually those children are going through another program, and will get access to HIPPY either through a Head Start or something of that nature. But I don't know, Gerald, do you have anything specific related to foster care?
No, not specifically. I mean, we have served parents who are fostering children who have preschool-age children, and they've become just HIPPY parents, on their own. The HIPPY program is a strictly voluntary program, so like nobody's ever court-ordered or mandated to be in the program. So again, anybody who is part of the HIPPY program is because they want to be, and that's what I think is a wonderful thing about our program also. So yeah, we've served foster parents in the program, but again, that's just because they've reached out to us and said they wanted to be part of it.
Great, thank you so much. If there are any other questions, you can type them into the chat box. We do have about 5 more minutes. And there was a question about how to get a copy of this webinar. We will be posting the recording on the Energy is Everywhere playlist on YouTube next week, and also posting this slideshow on the Energy is Everywhere website by Department of Energy. One more question has just come in. Who pays for the home visits, and what is the cost?
Well, it's all part of the contract that's done with the organization that has the HIPPY program. So, for example, like with Gerald mentioning, you have AmeriCorps folks, and so there are funds that are designated for them as HIPPY home visitors. But there may be other programs that will get funding, and they will pay to get the curriculum for HIPPY. They'll also have funding for their staffing for the home visitors. So it can vary based on what the partnership is, what the organization is. But a lot of times, one of the things for us in the national office is to work with organizations to get local funding, so that they'll be able to build their staffing for home visitors based on that, and then the payments will come from that local funding.
Thank you so much for answering that question. I've put the HIPPY map back up. Hopefully there is already a HIPPY program in your state that you can reach out to for additional technical assistance or just looking for feedback. And we do still have a few more minutes. If you want, you could also raise your hand and I can unmute you so that you can ask your question, or you could also type it into the chat box.
And yes, hopefully there is a HIPPY program or in your state, but if there is not, I do want to extend the invitation for anyone to contact us because we are always wanting to grow HIPPY. You heard Leroy say it. We feel that way very strongly in the national office, and I know that our other partners in local HIPPY offices like Gerald and Adams County always want more HIPPY sites and more colleagues in this field across the country. So that's just an olive branch to you to say if you're interested in HIPPY, do not hesitate to contact us even if it's not already in your state. You could be the first.
And I do have one more question about the map. What does it mean if a state is an independent program only?
Okay, so and I'll go quickly to the map here. There are some states that their actual state offices, early childhood office, state government office has said, because there is such a great interest in HIPPY, because there are so many sites in the state, we want to make sure that we are supporting your programs, that we are doing our own research, some of them are doing, but that there's just kind of a more unified approach to it. But it's just an investment from the state in the actual HIPPY model and delivery. The independent programs are just that. That is a program where someone said, for example, in Illinois, we really like this and we want to bring this to our community. So we are going to utilize funds that we have gotten from wherever their partnership may be to bring HIPPY to the state, and it runs independently. And then there are a couple of states, as you notice on the map, that actually have a state contract. That state has said we are going to contribute money to the delivery of HIPPY across the state.
So much. So we are out of time, but I do want to thank you so much for taking the time to inform us a little bit more about HIPPY, and I've got contact information up right now, so please feel free to reach out to Stacy or one of the other housing authorities to find out how they've been able to bring this resource to their residents. Thank you, everyone, and I wish you all a happy holidays. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.